What is going on with England's attack then? I mean, that's a question a lot of people have asked. There's been a lot of complaints made. There were England fans booing in the stadium at the weekend. I mean, they paid a lot of money to be there and they want to be entertained. I totally understand it. Brian O'Driscoll described England's play as kick tennis. Will Greenwood said England play no rugby. They just kick, bend over, push and jump and don't do much else. And Andy Good said it's 1, 2, 3 phases, then kick every time. How accurate are those statements from, the great Brian O'Driscoll, the World Cup winner Will Greenwood and Andy Good? Well, they've forgotten more about rugby than I will ever know. I'm just a bloke with a YouTube channel. What do I know? I think there's more nuance than they are saying, than the media is portraying, than some fans are giving England credit for. And I want to demonstrate my thinking by looking at the second half of England against Scotland. Please give me your thoughts in the comments down below. Give the video a thumbs up and hit subscribe. I'd love to know what you think on this one. And as I say, what do I know? I'm just going to give some thoughts. Scotland have the first attack of the second half and they play, with a bit of structure. Scotland get the ball to the edges, but they play 2 phases through the forwards, then get the ball to the backs on the edge. They don't make any ground, so they come back the other way, forward pod, another forward pod, and then they get the ball to the edge with the backs, again, making no ground. Now, at this point, England's defence is holding firm. Scotland have one more phase before thinking, right, this isn't working. We're expending all this energy. Let's kick. And that's the first thing I would talk about is why do teams kick? They kick because look at that picture. Look at what Scotland are seeing. They're seeing a white wall with lots of England defenders on their feet, well organised. Kicking gets a bad rap. What rugby looks like with no kicking is what happens at the end of matches when one team needs to score a try and they're, say, on their own line and they don't have the option to kick, and they just run relentlessly phase after phase into a brick wall defence that's all on its feet, and it's not fun to watch because it never ends. It very, very rarely ends in a try because especially international defences are so hard to break down. So kicking is an absolutely vital part of an attacking armoury, and here Scotland are trying to change the picture. They're trying to cause some chaos. They kick really well, get the ball back, and compare the picture of the England defence we just looked at with what Scotland now have in front of them. 4 Englishmen defending a whole half of the pitch, and Scotland with 5 attackers looking to exploit that space. They've caused chaos, they've engineered an opportunity, and now they can go. As it is, it's just really good English defence. Ben Earl with a good tackle, Henry Slade with a great clear out, causing Blair Kinghorn to use hands on the floor, and England are out of their own half. And with that possession, let me just remind you of what Brian O'Driscoll, Will Greenwood and Andy Good said. It's kick tennis. They play no rugby. It's 1, 2, 3 phases, then kick every time. Is that accurate? This is England's first attack in the second half. Line out, good ball, excellent carry, and they're into Scotland territory. They play a couple of phases through the forwards, then they go to the backs and engineer Finn Smith going flat to the defensive line, and he puts Henry Slade half through a hole. Almost a clean break, but it's a half break, and England are behind Scotland defences, and Slade goes for the offload. And if Ollie Lawrence catches this, look at that picture there. Blair Kinghorn and Finn Russell are in a foot race to try and close down Ollie Lawrence. I think there's a strong argument England score a try if this ball goes to hand. And that's off 3 phases from a really good line-out ball. So my main criticism of England in the Calcutta Cup game is that their attack was not accurate. It was not that it was not non-existent. And I don't think that phase that I've just shown you speaks to what Brian O'Driscoll said, or what Will Greenwood said, or what Andy Good said, and what many others have said. I think England are trying to play, just it hasn't clicked and they're not playing with total accuracy, but they're doing some nice things, and they did in that second half. Here, England attack from deep, and Marcus Smith carries the ball to about halfway. And here, they go straight for the kick. Now, there were groans happening around me. The boos would come shortly afterwards, but there were groans at this point. But again, just like we saw that picture with Scotland, why are England kicking? That's the question. Well, one, they're in their own half. And there's absolutely a criticism you can level at Steve Borthwick and his coaches. They do not want to play rugby in their own half. They want to get territory first and then play. And you can criticise that, but that's a relationship between risk and reward. And when you're a team that have been on the back of lots and lots of narrow defeats over the last year, you have to maybe understand the mentality of where this team is at the minute. They're trying to build some confidence. And maybe when that confidence comes, on this occasion, they would play. But they see a strong defensive line from Scotland. They go to the air with a crossfield bomb. It's not caught cleanly. As it happens, England knock it on. But they almost get the ball back with a different defensive picture in front of them. Scotland get the ball here. And here we see the difference between England and Scotland at the moment. And I think it is a confidence thing. Because Scotland, from just inside their own half, they have the confidence to attack. And they go coast to coast. And they make good ground as a result. They have deception. They have different options. They narrow it up. They go wide. Players with confidence on the ball. And it's a really good attack that takes them all the way to within 10 metres of England's line. And it is only Maro Itoje with a great rip on Xander Fagerson that saves England's bacon. So I think possibly there's a confidence problem, but I think that will grow because England are trying to play. Here they are, line out just inside their own half, one phase, and this was the moment where fans booed England because immediately and instinctively England go for the box kick. Like I've said, England do not want to play any rugby in their own half. I can understand why it might frustrate some people, but equally, when you're facing a team with Rory Darge and Jamie Ritchie all over you at the breakdown, I can understand not wanting to take that risk because a penalty in this position could be 3 points, which may have ultimately lost England the game. So they go for the kick and the boos rang around Twickenham at this point. They even mentioned it on commentary in the game, but it was loud. There were boos, and it felt like that autumn series in 2022 towards the end of Eddie Jones's reign when it was the same. England fans were booing England. But those boos very quickly turned to cheers when it led to Scotland under real pressure in their own 22. A good chase from Tommy Freeman. Scotland exit, and England have made a territorial gain of 20 metres, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that 20 metres means they are out of Scotland's kicking range and they can roll the dice, which on the next line out, England do. Again, England's line out was really, really good. And they get clean ball, good carry. They play again. And at this point, you think England are just about to go, right, we've had two phases with the forwards, just like Scotland do. Let's let the ball fly. Jamie Ritchie does Jamie Ritchie things, and he turns the ball over. Again, with a threat like that opposite you in Jamie Ritchie, who was inspired in this match, that's one reason why you might not want to play in your own half, because that penalty could have been 3 points rather than just Scotland exiting their own half. But it's not a case of England playing kick tennis, playing no rugby or 1, 2, 3 phases, then kick every time. Here they are with line-out ball, goes over the top. They're in Scotland's half. Ball's a little bit slow. Again, this is not England playing no rugby. This is England's attack being inaccurate. Chandler Cunningham South putting down the pass when he was put through a little hole by Ellis Genge. I would criticise England's accuracy. I don't know that I'd say they were playing no rugby. Elliot Daly from the relieving kick for Scotland carries it into Scotland's half. And again, England are in Scotland's half. When they're in Scotland's half, they play. They go. As it happens, is this the one where the ball is just painfully slow? I mean, this is the bit that's frustrating. I mean, the breakdown was just a bit of a mess in general in this match. But the ball is so slow. Look how organised the Scotland defence is. And just gets even more farcical. So with that defensive line being so well set, with the ball being so slow, England have to change the picture. And yes, they go for a kick here. But I would argue, look at the picture you're seeing on the field, I would argue this is the correct option. And so it proves. They've changed the picture, they've put Scotland under pressure, and look at the work of Ben Curry, of Henry Slade, and I think it's on the next phase, Jamie George with a brilliant turnover, and England in Scotland's 22 with the ball. The kick has turned out to be a really, really good one. Now England have ball with chaos caused in defence. They can attack. What can they do with it though? Finn Russell's clapping, he wants the ball. He tries to put Henry Slade through that hole, and the ball is ripped. Again, it's not that England are playing no rugby, it's that the accuracy of their rugby when they're in great positions isn't great. But I don't think what Brian O'Driscoll, Will Greenwood, Andy Goode and many more are saying, I don't think it's accurate. I think there's definitely criticisms you can level at England's attack. I'm not sure the criticisms that are being levelled are the right ones. Another line out in Scotland's half, and England have a brilliant launch play from a line out. They've got penalty advantage here because Scotland are slowing it up. Inaccurate attack again. It's not they're playing no rugby, it's that they're just not being very accurate. But the good attack that they did do from that line out led to 3 points. In their own half this time, with a knock-on advantage. And Finn Smith again kicks. England kick in their own half. You can criticise that. I'm a coach of a university rugby team, and maybe I'm boring, but that is generally my philosophy as well. I'll say to the lads, you know, if they put a load of players in the backfield and you see space on the edges, I'll always back you wherever you are on the field. If you see it and you want to go and exploit it, go for it. But generally speaking, get into their half first, and then you've got the freedom to roll the dice, because the consequences of it not going right are not so dire. And when you're a team that's lacking a bit of confidence, I can understand that philosophy. Maybe that will change over time. The balance might change. But Finn Smith again goes to the boot in his own half. Again, how can you argue that that was the wrong decision? England get the ball back. Henry Slade with a good chase and recover. Now England are in Scotland's territory and they can play, which they try to do. They play with some shape. Ben Earl with a lovely line off Marcus Smith, who's 2 times in that first receiver play. Ollie Chesham is in there. The ball's a little bit slow and cumbersome. And as a result, Scotland managed to organise their defence. But England's still trying to play. It's just they go off their feet. Ben Earl being penalised on that occasion. It was decent attack, just poor accuracy in the margins where it really matters. England with a line out in their own half. England do not want to play in their own half. I think partly because they've got Rory Darge and Jamie Ritchie opposite them and they don't want to give away 3-point opportunities. But also they want to try and change the picture. As it is, Scotland get the ball back on this occasion. Scotland, they do try and play a couple of phases out of their own half. But just like England, even they realise, hold on, this isn't the place to be playing rugby. It's a tight test match game. We're locked at 10-all. Let's get some territory first. With that territory, England do try and play. They've caused a bit of chaos with the kick in and the shape. They're into the Scotland half. England are trying to play. This is not what Brian O'Driscoll said, where it's kick tennis. This is not Will Greenwood saying they play no rugby. This is not 1, 2, 3 phases then kick like Andy Goode said. This was Jamie Ritchie having what Gregor Townsend described as his best ever game for Scotland. He was magnificent. England in Scotland's 22, and they try and recreate what they did against France with the maul, and then trying to put Elliot Daly in under the sticks. It doesn't work. It's fantastic defence from Scotland. This is not England not attacking. It's them just not being that accurate in attack. It's also Scotland being very good in defence. But the sum total of it is 3 points for England. And look, when I've talked about that relationship between risk and reward and not wanting to play in your own half for the fear of giving away a penalty and 3 points, have a look at Scotland on halfway. And they decide to play off unclean line-out ball and they get penalised. And Rory Darge didn't look very happy with the penalty. Gregor Townsend even brought it up as a complaint of his. I think it's a bit harsh giving the penalty for what it's worth on lifting Ben Curry up. I do also think there's an argument, a strong argument, that Rory Darge deserves the penalty against him because he did not enter through the gate. That is clearly through the side of the ruck. And the only reason he managed to lift Ben Curry off the ball is because he entered from the side of the breakdown. And look, you try and play in your own half, you give away 3 points, the 3 points which ultimately won England the game. The way that probably my biggest frustration of the whole match was less England's lack of ambition in attack, and it was more England not making the game more comfortable and closing the game out in the final 10 minutes. 71 minutes on the clock, and Elliot Daly kicks the ball straight into touch. England should be squeezing Scotland, and he gives them access to their 22. Terrible. England managed to steal a line out, but then immediately Harry Randall balls up the box kick. It gets charged down, and England invites Scotland into their 22. I mean, at international level, this is the element that should have cost England the game. Not their attack, not their lack of attack. Just how poor they were at closing the game out. And it was only brilliant England defence which kept them in the game at this point. And then a line out in Scotland's half with 2.5 minutes left to play. And England get penalised. An avoidable penalty they did not need to give away. And that is just poor accuracy. Finn Baxter penalised for getting in front of the jumper. And that's the only reason that Scotland get access to England's half. And Scotland are able to then go and show absolutely brilliant attack. Stafford McDowell with a great break. Duhan van der Merwe with another try. And the game could have been over. But to summarise, the game could well have been lost at the death to Scotland. But not because England play no rugby. I mean, as I say, what do I know? I'm just a bloke with a YouTube channel. Brian O'Driscoll, he knows more. He's forgotten more about rugby than I will ever know. But his description of England's play, I don't recognise. Will Greenwood and Andy Good's description of England's play, I don't recognise. It lacks a bit of confidence from a year of narrow defeats, sure. It lacks a lack of risk-taking in your own half, but England are not alone in that. And we saw from the 3 points that Finn Smith scored to win the match for England, maybe there's a reason behind not risking playing too much in your own half. But I think England actually showed in that second half an adjustment in how they played, some really good attack that just let itself down with the accuracy of it, not a lack of ambition. If England should have lost, it's because they did an awful job in the last 10 minutes of closing out the game. And I would argue, yeah, Scotland could have scored more points in the first half, but Scotland should never have had a sniff of winning the match in that final 10 minutes. Let me know what you think. Be interested to know. I'm starting a conversation, and it's an opinion. These are thoughts. My opinions aren't fixed, and I'd love to have a conversation down below and see how that develops. And maybe I'll revisit this if you give me some different perspectives. It'll be really, really interesting to see. But thank you very much for watching. Give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.